So, a video just dropped on Amazon. On the infographic show, Amazon just erased your library. You have 90 days, right? In that video, in full context for what this video is about, 2 hours ago, this comment went up on the platform, and this person in this discussion wrote, "For those of us with big audio libraries, the time will come when they do this there as well." I wrote back, download. It makes certain to download your Audible library, uh, 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 and back all that up. So yeah. Uh, ha 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 ha. Very funny. Like, I do not trust anybody anymore. I'm like paranoid. Only the paranoid survive in this ecosystem. So, anyways, the this is my code that I wrote, and like, you can totally try to enter your password in on the command line with this that dash that password equals your password and your username. Username equals dot. Your username into this and everything the same way you would with a regular Audible activator. But what this does is, if you've up like security to the point in which you have put in, the if the login is not complete, rerun with debug to finish it in the browser, and everything. And if you add in the debug, a command to it, it'll essentially, the debug, toggle to it, at this point, it'll essentially go and log in, and if and once you do the debug, you rerun it with debug, and then you complete every login, OTP, and CAPTCHA step in the browser, and then press enter here only after the browser fully redirects and refinishes into being fully logged into your Audible account, you know, and everything. And so once it does that and everything, I can't believe it says Audible Download Manager for the user agent. I may update. I may have to get that updated to rotate the user agents to make it a little bit more difficult to detect. As a potential improvement. To it. But essentially, you know, if you enter F, it'll do Firefox. If you add P, it'll store the player ID in hex for debugging, not end users. If you add the option dash dash password and then enter your password, you can get it to try to pass that to the browser and everything, but, it may not pass. And if you're running in debug mode, essentially, it'll run the whole process through and, essentially wait for you to fully log in, and then you can just hit enter on the command line and it'll work, essentially, and it will grab your Audible key. And what's really great about grabbing that auth key in particular is audible.com, and if you have that from them and you've got a library like my own and everything, I have a download button. I can just grab the full, from their servers. I have access to that. I can grab that file, I can save it, and I've already done so, and so it's already in my folders. And then I can take that, bit of information, and I can dump it in a file folder and essentially use a for all, command on the Linux command line to gradually, convert all those to FLAC FALC files and everything. And I kind of screwed up because I forgot that there were in my former video. Unfortunately, I deleted it pretty quickly, but yeah, there were bits of information that I didn't want leaking out, on that. And so there you go. The auth code is now fully censored. So I am now taking, I did 4 file in dot slash star for wildcard dot, A through A, in the brackets A, capital A, and then another bracket A, capital A, and then X, capital X, and then semicolon do dot AAX to MP3 dash dash FLAC dash dash level 4 dash C A dash E slash, A, capital A, censored, the auth code L1, and then, quote in quotations, star sign file, and everything, and then, after that I inputted done, after that, and so now it's going through and, stripping the DRM off of all of my Audible, files and converting to FLAC, which is pretty nifty in that, I can go over to where it's done, process, home, and then go into Amazon and its audiobook folders, and you see, my files are beginning to, essentially be backed up to my system and everything, and so, I can pull up, the FLAC files, and then I can take this .m3u and everything and add what?
This is Audible.
Interesting. Intriguing. Fundamentally intriguing. So it says I don't have permission, and that's Linux permissions to run the M3U, but, not a big problem and everything, but, I installed the proper drivers and everything, and so, now I get even the cover, of my files that are now .flac, and they've had the DRM stripped out of them, and, if I wanted to upload these to a torrent, at this point, I could totally do that. I could make a torrent and share them with whoever I want, straight out of Amazon servers, the audiobooks to these files, and, now for anything that I purchase, I have the ability to distribute edit everything on Amazon, and not Amazon, but on, the Pirate Bay and such, and sites like it, and I can push that content out to whoever I want, and so this is the command that I ran on the command line, right here. I had to use the WSL to do it, but it works, and function-wise, I mean, this is the command that I needed and everything, and if you have your auth code, you would enter it in that box, right there, that's in the white, and that once you have your auth code, you can basically use that to strip the DRM out of, your Audible files. So you're welcome, internet, and it may work better than the official script, so it's got new features and everything, that it's been forked from it, and it works a little bit better for me, for my purposes, and it may work better for yours.